Welcome back to most of our class after a break in August. And for those of you who are here at least, welcome back to Bristol Buddhist Centre. Well, and online. Welcome back because we are transmitting live from the Shrine Room. Well, let's make a start. So we're coming to the autumn period, which this autumn, I think we did it last autumn as well, we're going to be exploring the just sitting practice. So at the introductory, intermediate level, we could say, of meditation teaching in the Bristol Buddhist Centre, we teach these three practices. We have the mindfulness of breathing, the Metta Bhavana, and just sitting. So I'll say a little bit about that, what the just sitting practice is. So within the Triratna system of practice, within this, what we call the system of meditation practice, which corresponds to that wider system of practice. The wider system of practice has these 5 elements, termed integration, positive emotion, spiritual death, spiritual rebirth, and receptivity. The just sitting practice, you could say, corresponds to the element of receptivity within that system of practice. You could say that all the stages of that system of practice and all the meditation practices that might correspond to those different stages, they all, in a sense, well, they all are mutually sort of interpenetrating, something like that. So, you know, when we do the Metta Bhavana practice, we're also developing mindfulness and integration. When we do the mindfulness breathing practice, developing integration, but we're also developing positive emotion, because integrated states of mind are positive states of mind. With just sitting, it's the same. So we are developing all of those qualities. But we're choosing to focus, as it were, and look through a particular lens at meditation, which really means looking through a particular lens at our experience and what's going on in it. What I would say about the just sitting practice, and I think this is how Sangha, the founder of the Triratna movement, when he talked about it, this is the way that I think he, at least under my understanding, is how he thought about it, is that it was a practice that will balance the other 2 practices out. So practices where we're developing some particular quality, like metta or mindfulness, they tend to be very, what would you say, sort of intention oriented. So you've got a goal and trying to develop this quality, which is great. But one of the side effects, I don't know if that's quite the right term, but one of what can go along with that sometimes is we can tend to become rather goal orientated or a little bit willful in that practice. So the just sitting practice helps to balance that out, gives us a chance. So it's a good thing to intersperse with other meditation practices. Yeah. So that's a bit about its place within the system, and a bit about its general qualities. I'm fond of quoting or touching on a favourite sutta from the teachings of the Buddha called the Bahir Sutta. Bahir was he was a wanderer, you know, a spiritual seeker, serious spiritual seeker, I think you could say, and he had a lot of practice under his belt. And then he heard about the Buddha, and he rushed off quite a long way, I think, from sort of Bombay to the Ganges River, some would have it, to find the Buddha and ask him what he taught. And Bahir asked the Buddha, whilst the Buddha on his arms round, and traditionally the Buddha wouldn't talk to people when he was on his arms round, and wouldn't give teachings. But Bahir was very insistent, and so the Buddha said to him, paraphrasing somewhat, but he said, "In the seen, only the seen. In the heard, only the heard. In the perceived, only the perceived or sensed. And in the cognized, mental faculty, only the mental faculty." He then said about what would happen if you saw things from that point of view, saw life from that point of view. That basically you would see through the subject-object divide that creates suffering. We won't talk about much of that, well, maybe not just at the moment, but you would become awakened. And the Buddha said, after that, he said that was the end of stress, or the end of suffering. Just to do that, to see in the seen only the seen, in the heard only the heard, in the perceived only the perceived, in the cognized only the cognized. So this has bearing on this just sitting practice. So essentially what we're trying to do with just sitting is do that. We're trying to see only the seen, heard only the heard, etc. We're trying to come into relationship to our experience just as it is, just as it is arising. But what is our experience? It's a good question, isn't it? What is our direct experience if it's unmediated by anything else? I'll say a little bit more about that, but I think you've been coming to these classes for a while. You're already aware of what it is that maybe gets in the way of just that direct seeing of experience. So essentially what we see when we look at our experience is what arises through the six senses. You could in fact say that all of our experience in one way or another arises through the six senses. So we have the traditional five senses that we are familiar with, but in Buddhism it regards the mind as a sense in its own right. This is because the mind has a tool of perceiving, the mind itself, but it also has objects arising in it, which qualifies something as a sense experience, just as we have hearing, the faculty of the audio faculty, and we have some sound going on out there. We have seeing, we have the faculty of vision, and we have some object out there. When those three things meet together, the Buddha said, then you get experience arising. So the same is true with the mind sense. We have the mind, which is the perceiving object, the perceiving faculty. We have whatever arises in that, thoughts, etc. And we have the possibility to perceive those thoughts as they're arising. So the Buddha taught that in order to come into closer relationship to our experience in the way that he encouraged Bahir to do, and incidentally Bahir, after receiving that teaching, almost instantly became awakened, enlightened. What the Buddha encouraged us to do was to simply see our experience as it's arising. So that's seeing it as much as we can, non-judgmentally, without the filters of the mind. So the filters of the mind, often referred to as the kleshas, mental and emotional veils over our experience, which tend to filter everything that comes in. So when we sit down to meditate, we see these filters operating, even if we're not conscious of it. So everything is passing through these mental veils, mental emotional veils. So we have a thought, and that thought leads to another thought, and that leads to another thought. It may take us down a path of craving, it may take us down a path of anxiety, a path of aversion, etc. And these are the veils operating. So we're unable to come into a direct relationship to our experience, and we come into relationship to experience through the veils, or those veils are actually obscuring our experience from us. So they represent a kind of a defense mechanism, if you like, sort of a barrier to experience. And this is why when we come to meditate, as soon as we sit down, there's actually a lot going on in any of us at any time. That stuff is there somewhere, either sort of buried away in the unconscious, or just under consciousness, or maybe it's right there in the mind. But we are often trying to just suppress that experience in one way or another. So we go to craving as one way of suppressing it. Just don't want to be here now. Let's think of something nice to do. Eat a cake, go on a mental holiday, etc. Or we push away from that experience. So there's a stream of kind of aversive thoughts, etc. So I think we're all familiar with this. And so the just sitting practice, coming back to that, could be seen to be about letting go of everything that is stopping us seeing what is actually there. And also using some techniques that can help us to just point more closely to our direct experience. So that's what we're going to be exploring over this term, trying to see our experience as it is, and work with some of the things that obscure that from us. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to say for now, which is enough, I think. So I thought today we just start with a meditation that, well, it's just a generalized meditation around just sitting, helping us to open up that space whereby a little bit more we can see a little bit more clearly our experience as it is. So if you want to set up for meditation, so always a good place to start is with our posture. Can be easy to overlook posture if we are regular meditators, which can lead to us getting into some less helpful habits with our posture. So it's good every now and then to check in with it. Just doing a general scan of the body, see where there are any areas of tension. Breathing into those. Let go on the out breath of any tension. and notable areas, shoulders rising up. Face can also hold a lot of tension, jaw, throat. Scanning to see what's there. Breathing in and letting go of any tension. So that doesn't leave us too focused on what we might consider the negative aspects of the body. Also do a scan that looks for areas of ease, contentment, relaxation. There may even be areas of joy, or gladness in the body. It'll be quite interesting if we're not used to looking for these. And there may be areas of just pleasure within the body, or the subtle, for instance, the breath. And consciously unhooking from any mental activity that is there in order to come into the body. So one of the things that the mind might be doing in its more defensive modes is to cut us off from the sensate experience of the body. Can we sometimes come into a felt sensate body there's a little discomfort as we transition out of the thinking mind into that direct awareness of sensation. And descend down through the body, coming down to the lower abdomen. Thinking, sensations of the head and face. Jaw, the lips. Seeing if we can allow attention flow into sensations of the face and the jaw. Feeling of inhabiting those parts of the body. Come down to the neck and throat. Picking up on the direct sensate experience of a part of the body. If there doesn't seem to be much going on in a particular part of the body, just waiting with attention, like stepping from a bright room into the dark outside at night. It takes a while for our eyes to adjust. To start with, we can see nothing. Just wait, our eyes adjust, and we may be able to start to see objects appearing. And down to the chest area. Any sensations around the heart. Down to the diaphragm, bottom of the rib cage. An area that may hold quite a lot of tension. Coming down to the lower abdomen, the area below the navel. Staying with our experience as it is, direct, sensate bodily experience that we're focusing on at the moment. Seeing if attention can sink down to the lower abdomen. Sensations that are there. Rise and fall with the breath. So if we are getting caught up in a train of thought, thinking about some future experience, thinking about some past experience, notice if that's going on. So underneath the train of thought, desire, aversion, anxiety, tiredness and sleepiness, there's almost certainly some feeling. Some sense of disease, not wanting to be here, of discontent with just this present moment. context or view of that feeling, saying something like, here and now is insufficient. Train of thoughts to do with aversion, maybe a feeling of hurt. Train of thoughts to do with some sort of craving, some future experience, discontent. Train of thoughts are anxious, some underlying fear or worry. So see if we can trace back the train of thoughts, if one is there, to the underlying feeling. See if we can rest in the underlying feeling. Not trying to get rid of the underlying feeling. Not judging it. Just letting it be there. Maybe up to sense how the underlying feeling wants to pull us away from just this moment, this aware being. Just noticing if that's what's taking place. It's because of the seeming unpleasantness of the underlying feeling that we try to escape from this present moment. We're going into thoughts, fantasies, imagination. So escape strategies. It may seem to temporarily work and keep us in a distracted state, keep us out of this present moment. Or we can sit with the underlying feeling, disease, discomfort. Sit with it in the body. Notice it. Aside from the mental proliferation of thoughts, what is the actual experience of this underlying feeling? What is its experience of it in the body? Find that underlying feeling as a sensate experience in the body. It's not directly physically painful. Is there anything inherently unpleasant about it? Or is it just some sensations? Contraction in the body. Notice that if resistance to our current experience subsides by simply being aware, being with it in the body, the thinking that is based on that underlying feeling also comes to an end. Mind, surface of the ocean, ripped up by visible forces, the wind. We're able to calm the water, become one with the sensate experience, feeling the surface of the ocean, calm, still. This is the ocean returning to its natural state. Ease, calm, depth, peace. Into this present moment awareness. Things as they are in this moment. Aliveness, responsiveness, the natural state. Starts to come back to us. So we'll have a break for 5 minutes. And conversation. Can we include people online? I'll just check to see whether they're Diane or Claire, are you going to be here in the conversation? We can set that up if you'd like to stay.
I'd like to stay and see how it works, whether we can do it.
Okay, great.
I'm going to leave, I think. So,
Okay.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay, thanks. Bye, Claire.
Bye-bye. Bye, Claire.
In that case, let's here. Okay, yeah. So we'll have 5 minutes first, then. 5 past.
So is the idea to have them off and get a glass of water?
Yes, ideally that's it. Yeah. Masks.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I was going to stay, but my daughter's not well. She's from school, so she said I could go out for an hour for the meditation. But she wants me to come back at 2 o'clock. So fair enough. Fair enough.
I can see you.
Well, I might be able to work next week, Wednesday. So I might be able to.
What would you like to do?
I wasn't sure. I wasn't really sure about staying. So.
Okay. No, that's fine. Yeah.
I want to stay, but things I want to get done. What time does it finish if the discussion is?
So we finish at 2:30, so it'll be another half an hour.
Okay, yeah, I'm here until 5:30, so
Okay.
3 hours to do my things.
And you're heading
Half past.
okay.
I mean, usually you finish at half past, but I often used to wash up. But as it is, there's a dishwasher now. So.
Please use the dishwasher.
So I think we could set ourselves up so that we can ensure we've got
So we can be seen.
yeah, so we can include Diane in the conversation. Be nice.
Oh,
And then,
hello, Claire. Thank you.
well, it's amazing being here. It's the first time I've been in here, so I'm very pleased. This is Alice.
Hello, Alice.
Hi.
This is Diane, who usually comes to this online.
Ah.
Yes, and I'm still online. Too far away
Yeah.
to come in person. Yeah.
Where do you live?
Near Ringwood.